Let's get started with Matt Kawahara.
Hi, Mark. Thanks very much for hopping on with us here. First of all, what was your reaction when you heard that a deal had been reached and you can kind of just really start getting to work here and getting in touch with players?
Going down the list to see which player I could call first, and making sure I had permission to call when the deal got done. Obviously, there was some time to finalize it, so there was a waiting period. Before we could reach out to the players, we got word around a little after 4 o'clock West Coast time that we could contact our players, and it was great. It was exciting. Took full advantage of it yesterday to reach out to as many guys as I could and make contact.
Were you able to get in touch with just about everybody? Are you still kind of waiting to hear from guys? And what was the best exchange that you've had so far?
Just the first conversation. Hearing the excitement of just the voice on the other end of the line about getting started. The opportunity to get to spring training and start playing baseball. I've reached just about the full roster. Obviously, there's some, time change issues. There's guys traveling in from Latin America that we're trying to connect with, and we will once they get their feet on the ground here.
Who was that first conversation with?
Well, that's interesting you say that, because there's a little bit of an argument about the fact that I didn't call the Titan first in Matt Chapman, and reached out to Matt Olson, first, connected with him, and had a good conversation with Matt, and then went down the line with all the guys. So, it's obviously not anyone in particular that became that first call by choice. It was just the first one on my list that I hit dial and connected with.
Let's go to Manolo.
Yeah. Hey, Mark. Congratulations once more. This is a very important moment in your career to take over the Oakland Athletics. What do you consider is going to be the biggest challenge in this kind of special situation where we're in the middle of March and spring training doesn't even have started and they have lost so much time?
Well, thanks, Manolo. Appreciate the compliment. Again, I'm excited to get going. There obviously, as you mentioned, are going to be challenges in this situation that we're all in. Not just the Oakland Athletics, but every team in baseball is in the process of getting their players in as quickly as possible, getting on the field and getting prepared for a season. So those challenges in itself, logistically, and getting everyone into spring training, the timing of that impacts how we get started. But I think that we've got everyone on their way and are going to hit the ground running with a first workout on Monday.
Yeah, in this kind of situations, I'm guessing that one of the most important things is having good pitching. How fortunate you feel to have right now, unless they make trades, you have a rotation that looks pretty good. You have at least 5 men that would experience starting games in the major league level.
Yeah, Manolo, it obviously helps to have some veterans here in camp. Again, I think everyone's in a similar situation with pitching. We are in constant contact with these guys currently. We know where they're at. Most of, I would say, the majority of guys have maintained their program. They may not be as advanced as they would be if we had started spring training on time, but they're really close. So, it's a credit to their work ethic this offseason, the time and energy they spend in preparing throughout the lockout, and to come in here ready to possibly throw a bullpen, throw in live batting practice, and start games on the 18th.
Let's go to Martin Gallegos.
Hey, Mark. Obviously, the roster, there are some guys who maybe could see, news and see their names possibly floating around and rumors or whatever. Do you approach that with them at all? How do you kind of handle something like that? I know every year, anything can happen, but do you kind of make it a point to kind of talk to them? I don't know, to kind of talk to them before that?
Well, I think, if we deal in the unknown and the speculative here in in our everyday situation, we lose focus on what's important, and that's getting ready for the season. So obviously my intent and focus as a manager of this ball club is to get every single individual that's here in camp with us prepared for a season. And I think that's the main focus.
And I know, you talked about, being patient while all this was getting worked out, but how much are you looking forward to just getting on the field with guys and seeing workouts actually take place with, your guys on the roster and just being able to kind of all be together again on the field?
Yeah, it's great. We had a optional workout today with the guys that were working out here in Arizona that could get to the facility. So it was fun. There were a few guys out here. We took some batting practice, saw a couple bullpens, and had a good, successful day with the crew that was here. Obviously, guys are flying in today. Guys will be flying in Saturday. We're trying to get prepared for that first full squad workout Monday.
Go to Alex Simon.
Hi, Mark. Alex Simon with Bay Area News Group. I mean, when you got hired, it was in the middle of the lockout. So with a lot of these guys that you've been a coach with for all this time, I imagine, the lockout kind of restricted you from talking to them. So kind of, what was that first conversation with a lot of the guys that you have coached on becoming their manager now?
Well, I'm fortunate. I've had a lot of great relationships with a lot of these guys on this roster. So there was a initial excitement about the decision that was made and announcing that I would be managing them going forward. Obviously, we hadn't had that opportunity personally to exchange that conversation, and I'm very thankful that I'm sitting here today. I'm very excited, and I hope, and it did come across that a lot of the returning players that I've spoken with already had a level of excitement as well.
When you kind of talk about, and Martin kind of asked about potential roster moves, obviously, usually by the time you get to spring, a lot of those get settled. There's not really too many trades that happen in spring training. Is that going to kind of just add to the craziness of this period between the start of spring and the first few days where everything's that couldn't happen in these last few months is going to have to happen?
Alex, I still say I think that all 30 teams are in a very similar situation. So even though this is my first rodeo, leading a club, I think every one of the managers that sit in this situation have the same issues they're going to be dealing with. There's a lot of unknowns and a lot of variables to go forward with. So I think staying in the moment, staying in the present, getting a team prepared for this season, because it is a shortened spring training, is the focus.
And then just one quick one. How many guys would you guess, or I guess an estimate of how many you had out today with your optional workout today?
Alex, I think we had 11 guys out in total. I could be one or two off, but it was a good group that has been training. They've kept themselves in great shape. Again, I watched 4 guys throw bullpens that looked like they were really sharp. So that's exciting. I expect the guys coming in, when we go through physicals, we're having optional workouts Saturday, Sunday with these guys, just to get their feet on the ground, give them an opportunity to get out on the field, get settled and start their routines.
Thank you.
Let's go to Steve Berman.
Hey, Mark, you had a few months there where you had, plenty of time on your hands, but, how did you use that time to prepare for the season, with obviously the fact that you couldn't actually contact your players?
Yeah, Steve, there was a lot of time, a lot of anxiety probably that shouldn't have been there, but, going into it your first time, you'd like to have a schedule built. You'd like to have a starting date. And so all those unknowns now are behind us. It does feel good to have dates on the schedule, to be able to work a plan that we've been preparing as a staff throughout the off season over the last 2 months.
And speaking of your staff, how do you feel about your coaching staff going in here, and specifically, what does Osmus bring to the table for you as a manager?
I touched briefly on it a few days ago, but Brad, we joke about his 18-year career because he's 1 year longer than my 17-year career. So between the two of us, we were blessed with 35 years of major league experience playing at that level. Brad's managed for 5 years, and that brings invaluable experience. Someone standing next to me that's experienced, the ups and downs of a season, the trials and tribulations that happen. He's experienced it firsthand, so that's obviously a bonus for me.
Thanks.
Let's go to John Shea.
Oh, hello, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm well, John. How are you?
Good, thanks. Congrats on the new job and getting back to work. What a way to start, huh?
Yeah, thank you.
Just wondering about your strategy for spring training. It's not 6 weeks. It's really about 3.5. And is the biggest thing, that it'll be like impossible to get starting pitchers ready like normal? And if so, how do you handle that? It's kind of a, big injury risk, perhaps.
Yeah, John, obviously you have to take that into consideration, the acceleration of a program when guys aren't ready. That's why we're in constant, discussion with guys who are arriving. We've taken advantage of the last 24 hours to connect and communicate, to understand where they're at, how many pitches they've thrown, if they've thrown to hitters. So we're collecting all that information, and we're working backwards from opening day, trying to figure out the schedule, how many days we actually have, how many opportunities they're going to have to get on the mound, to build their pitch count up in a competitive environment. Because we all know it's different when you're out there and the competitive juices are throwing than just throwing on the side to a catcher. So, Scott Emerson, our pitching coach, has done this for 20 plus years. I've got full confidence in him developing that program, and increasing their workload to get them ready for a season without, hopefully having the injury issue come into play.
And when you checked in with the guys, you said like pretty much the whole roster. Did anyone ask you or express any concern about all the trade talk? Because a lot of names out there are being thrown around.
John, I think everyone's just excited about getting to spring training. And the focus is getting prepared for a season for all of these guys. So the distractions, granted, they do exist. I think that as professionals, we come to work to prepare for a season, to have success in the long haul.
And with the rules and regulations going into Toronto, and you do that right away in April, what's the obstacle? Because they're saying you can't play unless you're vaccinated. And is everyone on your coaching staff vaccinated?
Well, you kind of answered that, John. There's obstacles. We'll overcome them, and we'll tackle them when we get there. But yeah, Toronto is a unique situation with the vaccination requirements. I'm not in knowledge of how many players on the current active roster we have that are not vaccinated. I can answer and speak for the coaching staff, and we all are vaccinated. We all are boosted. I think, going forward, we'll dive a little deeper into the vaccination issues. But currently we're really focused on just getting everybody in here, getting the physicals taken care of, and getting started.
Cool. Maybe one more. How good can this team be in your mind? The group you have. I mean, you missed the playoffs last year, but contended many years in a row. Is that the goal, to contend for a playoff spot, or is it too premature to say that because you don't really know your full roster yet?
Well, if you're asking me if I want to contend for a playoff spot, I absolutely do want to contend for a playoff spot. That's why we put the uniform on and we play. We play to win.
Cool. Thank you.
Let's go back to Matt Kawahara.
Do you know of any players, whether it's visa requirements or anything like that, who you're not expecting to have in camp by Monday?
Sitting here right now, I know there could possibly be 2 players with visa issues. I believe Barrera and Charles are the 2 players that are having some visa issues. I don't know the depth, and I don't know where it lies currently. But I was told that those 2 players may be a few days late.
And then do you know, with Andrus and Piscotty coming back from their injuries and surgery, do you know how they're doing?
Yeah, well, we get to talk to them now. Both have progressed nicely. I think Elvis is run the bases on his own during this time, so I think he'll be ready to come to camp and hit the ground running. Although he is, an older player, which I've experienced, he may need a little bit more time before we send him into games. But we'll talk to him and get his feelings and thoughts on that. And as far as Steven goes, I know Steven's been hitting. He's progressing really nicely. When he gets here, I think we'll test his strengths and assess where he's at, and also talk to him in his comfort level about getting in there and starting games as well.
And just at the risk of kind of repeating a similar question as before, I mean, have you been given, are you expecting at this point to have roster changes to the makeup of the roster in the coming days?
Man, I'll say this. I'm excited about the group that's here and focused on the group that's here. As a manager, that's really my focus. Billy and David and I, I understand that there's conversations that began last November. But my job is really focused on preparing the 58 guys that are going to be in this locker room starting Monday.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have time for just a couple more. We'll go back to Alex Simon.
Yeah, Mark, obviously there's just one from me here at the moment. There's been quite a few rule changes, even just to how the game is played, that either are going to be implemented going forward or right away. Is there any one that you, either in the positive or the negative sense, feel particularly passionate about at this point?
Yeah, Alex, last night at 11:15, I think I got a 20-page memo. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to go through the whole memo yet. I know, just listening to the feeds, that the news that's come out, I'm in terms of rule changes or adjustments to the way the game's played going forward. I wouldn't say there's one that I'm excited about. I could say from a baseball mind, the discussions of a pitch clock, the impact that will have on the game. I know they've, experimented with it in the minor leagues, and it doesn't seem to have a huge impact either way from a performance standpoint, or I think, speaking candidly, a time of game, standpoint. So the larger bases, I don't really know how that's going to impact the game. I know that their thought process is it's going to increase offense, increase stolen bases. But until we really start with those rule changes and see the effects, I really am unbiased to how I reflect on it.
All right, two more. We'll go back to Martin Gallegos.
You said you saw a few bullpen sessions. Who threw those bullpens, and did any of them kind of stick out to you? Did you see anything?
Well, first time I've watched Brent Honeywell throw, threw the ball well, comes out of his hand well. AJ Puck was also another bullpen session today. AJ's looks like he's put on some weight, some good weight. He looks really physical. Threw the ball great today. Paul Blackburn also, threw, and there was one more side. I'm drawing a blank right now. It's been a long day. But yeah, there's one more side in there.
All right.
It was Dalton Jeffries. There you go. I knew it would come to me. Thanks, Martin.
All right, we'll finish it up with Manolo.
Mark, is Ramon Laureano one of the players that is already with you there? He played in the Dominican and won a ball. He still have some games of suspensions to go, but will he be allowed to train with the rest of the group and then leave the stadium? What's the situation with Ramon?
Yeah, Ramon will be allowed to conduct business as usual in spring training. Obviously, when we break, Ramon will be staying in Arizona to continue his workouts. As you mentioned, he still has 27 games to serve through the suspension, and we'll be excited when Ramon returns to us.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark.
Thanks, guys.
Mr.